Welcome to Weather or Not on a Wednesday, February 11th. Looks like our stretch of warm, dry weather will continue for today. We're actually following an increase in cloud cover that will work its way west to east across the area. Nothing expected to fall out of these clouds. If you do, it's a sprinkle, very, very light, enough maybe to dot the landscape, and I think that should be about it. You can see how the clouds do thicken by the time we do get into the afternoon. And even for tonight, we'll go with that mostly cloudy sky in eastern and southeastern KELOLAND. Clouds will go away as we go through the morning. For tomorrow, by the afternoon, Futurecast showing mostly sunny skies. And as we do get into Friday, same thing, dry, warm, temperatures well above average. We'll try to continue that theme as we do get into this coming weekend and lasting even into early next week. Wind gusts for today. I think we'll have relatively light winds, 5 to 15 miles per hour. That's a good average across the area. You do notice by midday we may have these southerly winds in south central South Dakota, maybe southwestern Minnesota. We could get a couple of those wind gusts near 20. 3 o'clock this afternoon, still with our light winds. We'll carry that right into this evening and tonight, as our temperatures tonight should not be as cold as what we had earlier this morning when we had some of us in the teens and 20s. I think we'll fall close to 30 in many locations for tonight as the cloud cover remains. So here's our forecast with the increase in cloud cover that we'll have throughout the day. Temperatures will be above average, 40s and 50s for highs. We'll have light winds, 5 to 15 miles per hour. Clouds will remain thick, especially across the east and southeast. Sure, there could be an isolated sprinkle or two found here and there, but anything that falls and hits the ground will remain very, very light. Moisture is very limited, and the atmosphere we know is very dry. Forecast tomorrow, a decrease in cloud cover as we go through the day, mostly sunny skies in the afternoon, and we'll have highs in the 40s and 50s as light winds continue. Coming up on today's show, we'll talk about the weekend. Moisture, where we are going and where we are with our moisture. Probably bring in the drought monitor, which we usually don't talk about during the winter months, but we're coming out of the winter, and these above average temperatures just continue to help dry things out. And we'll take a look at our weather pattern coming up. And guess what? Meteorologist Brian Karstens is here to join us today. He'll come in during the moisture segment of Weather or Not. Thank you for joining us on our latest edition. Stay with us. Let's talk about the weekend. Even though we are on a Wednesday, it's never too early to talk about the weekend, is it? We are looking at the dry conditions, the warm conditions to continue straight into this coming weekend. So, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if some people do fire up that grill, as temperatures will be well above average. We're talking numbers in the middle 50s and 60s. Those are temperatures we usually see toward the end of March, or even for some, when we get these temperatures in the 60s, we have to get into April to see those numbers. That's just looking at the climate average highs. So we are looking at very warm air for this weekend, also looking dry as we do take a look at some of the other forecasts for you here, showing temperatures in the 50s to near 60 degrees. Looks like Sunday will end up being warmer than Saturday. High temperature near 60 in Huron on Sunday. 60 our forecast high in Mitchell for Sunday. Mobridge, both days may come in the lower 50s with a dry sky. 58 Saturday in Chamberlain, then a warm 62 on Sunday. And here's a look how things are shaping up. We'll continue to follow that warm air as it comes in from the south. That's a look at Saturday, keeping the rain away. I have to talk about rain, not snow, but I have to talk about rain with these temperatures as warm as they are expected to be as we do go through the weekend. And there's a look at Sunday. Sunday, more or less the same thing. We'll see how close some of those temperatures do get to maybe 60 degrees. I would not be surprised if, we do have some of those 60s try to make an appearance here in maybe southeastern South Dakota, just to the south of Sioux Falls. Throughout much of eastern Nebraska, I think they'll have temperatures in the 60s. So we are looking at a very warm weekend as those temperatures will remain above average. Stay with us. We'll talk about this moisture or lack of moisture in KELOLAND, and do we have any in the future? And be joined by meteorologist Brian Karstens. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Welcome back to Weather or Not. Guess who is here? Brian, when's the last time? Okay, not only you, but we got to go back to getting some of those sound effects in. When's the last time we've done the show?
Oh, boy. Well, I guess with me being gone to various gymnastics meets, and then I guess I was back last week for a little bit.
Yeah, was it
Wednesday,
Thursday?
Yeah,
last
I
week?
think you're right. Wednesday and Thursday. And then I was gone on Friday. You were gone yesterday. So now we're...
No, you were gone.
Well, I was gone
I was gone Monday.
Yeah. One day of the week is...
There's a lot of sunshine out there. We're getting, disoriented with the sunshine and the warm temperatures.
Lots of busyness, too.
Trying to figure out what day of the year it is. When you look at those numbers, and we talked about this too, we're talking, our climate average highs hit the lower 50s toward the tail end of March, and the middle 50s show up in April. And those are temperatures that we have in our 7-day forecast.
It is, yeah. So it's like you pluck a week out of early April, late March, and here we are. And we've got several days in a row of this kind of weather. So I know we're talking about, some of the reasons behind that. It's kind of an interesting discussion, and I think some of those topics we wanted to address because bottom line is lack of snow kind of leads into a little bit of this, the drought monitor that we've been kind of keeping an eye on for, kind of in the background here, Scott.
Well, right, and this is something that you and I talked about this morning, kind of behind the scenes. We just wanted to, maybe start to get a little bit ahead of this in case it does become more of an issue as we get into, the warmer months of March, April, start thinking about spring planting. What does the summer hold for us? So, just in case we continue with these dry conditions and warm conditions, this is something that we just want to get ahead of. Start thinking about the possibility of seeing the drought monitor more and more. And this is what it looks like right now. We still have that moderate drought showing up southwestern, south central, southeastern KELOLAND. You don't really expect this to change much as we go through the winter months. Winter, of course, is the driest time of the year. But we're about to, wave goodbye to meteorological winter. So, what's knocking on the doorstep? Well, spring. And hopefully we'll get some spring rains or even snows. We could take whatever moisture we can get. Here's a look at the average, the percent average of precipitation for the year. Now, of course, this only goes back about a month and a half, but you can see that these numbers are low, anywhere in that 10 to 30 percentile range in eastern, southeastern KELOLAND. I was kind of checking in on Yankton. So far, a lot of these days being reported as a trace of an inch, and you may or may not agree with that depending on where you are in and around the Yankton area, but it has been very dry. And then not that far off in the Spencer, Iowa, it's 130%. I know we've had some better chances of rain and snow move through those locations. And then Worthington, that could be an area too. It says 3%. Would not be surprised we get some areas that are a little higher than that, which is good. We could use that moisture. But Sioux Falls sitting in at 19% of average since the beginning of the year. And so far this month, it's been hard to come by. We're only a week and a half into the month, but you can see how our precip totals so far, 0.05 of an inch and less. We do have 0.04 there in Aberdeen, 0.08 in Sisseton. So as you look at the departure from average here, now this again is for the month. You see many of us coming in about a quarter to maybe a quarter of an inch below average. And, if this trend continues, unfortunately, that drought monitor will just continue to expand.
Well, yeah, and it is interesting when you look at, where we're at on the calendar for January, February. So a lot of this, of course, is a drier time of the year. Typically, we don't get as much moisture to work with. Northwest flow has a lot to do with this. It's been the intrusions of not just the Pacific air, but also the Arctic air. And all of that has a lack of moisture, generally speaking. It's not a robust pattern for blockbuster snow or rain. So viewers out there, I know everybody has an opinion on that, and some people would really argue that lack of snow makes it easier, makes life easier on people. It's not as cold, at least generally speaking, the ability to stay cold when you don't have a deep snowpack. And here's the bottom line. We're going to start to see some changes, but we've got to see those. And one thing I brought up on my graphics machine here, Scott, in the break, I was just kind of looking at the last 90 days. So if we rewind the clock back to early November, around the 10th of November, and I remember about that time is when we started picking up some more active weather. So I
just looked. It was the 8th of November. Sioux Falls had 3 inches of snow.
Yeah. I had to visit a bunch of kids here that day.
Yep.
Yeah, and I remember that date. I'm like, oh, wow, it's going to snow. And, November snow gets kids kind of excited. But see how all of that northwest flow ended up fueling above average precipitation for North Dakota, northern half of South Dakota. In fact, if I hammer in here a little closer, this is where we're at on the 90-day picture. So you showed us just the snapshot since the first of the year. So we've picked up more moisture north, but there's more to this story too, because I pointed this out. Look at along the Gulf Coast region.
Ooh.
No moisture, very, very little. They had a pretty decent-sized storm here, a couple weeks ago, kind of routed through and, had something in there. But if you look at the whole totality of the weather patterns, it's been pretty dry. So that's 90 days. Let's go back farther back in time. So this gets us a bigger picture, too, on, since last fall. And I want to pop this up because right in here, southeast South Dakota, this is your carryover problem from last summer. So it's the southeast. It's Sioux Falls to Yankton, northeast Nebraska. We've got some pretty decent deficits in there, 3 or 4 inches below normal. We can overcome that, but we also know we can go the other way. So we're at the mid-February point is a really good time of the year to start organizing where we're at, where we're going into the growing season. And I always remember at Iowa State, one of the old things we used to watch, and we still do, when it comes to February weather, is you watch the jet stream pattern in Oklahoma and Arkansas. And those things that establish in February, it's not 100%, but it does work out a lot of the time. Those patterns will shift northward as the days grow longer. So that's why the next 10 days, 15 days, it's kind of important to start seeing some moisture down there. Because
we have some showing up for this weekend.
Right,
for them,
exactly.
Not for us, but for this weekend for them to our south.
And speaking of that, let me just pop that up here on the screen. This is a precip total. This is actually the newest run of the European model. And lo and behold, look at that. See that? Now, you're thinking to yourself, well, that doesn't affect us. Well, no, it doesn't. But
Not right away.
But it is a thing we need to be aware of because this tells me, okay, now we've got something to work with. And even one big storm like that can really impact the numbers across the Ozarks, Little Rock, Arkansas, Oklahoma City, Dallas, Fort Worth. So, again, that's a rainstorm. That's not a snow system. It might produce, a couple little things out even as far north as Nebraska and Iowa. But, that's our front, 5-6 days out here toward the 17th or 16th of February.
And that's the day when we're looking at temperatures in the 60s.
Oh, boy.
For us.
Just for fun, since we're on this map, this is the anomaly map. Okay, these are the interesting colors. Let me rewind this. So everything's, there's a lot of red in here. Sometimes this map goes to what? Look at those colors. I mean, if you really dig into the math on this, look at these numbers. I know they're a little hard to read all of these, but that bright white and pink, those are plus 30 or approaching plus 30 above normal, Scott.
Mm-hmm. Now, this is taking the average of the high and the low.
Yeah, and that takes us, that's only, this week, that's our Thursday forecast. There's Friday. Look at Sisseton and Millbank, plus 33 degrees above average for this time of the year. Fargo, Moorhead, Bismarck. And, of course, we can run this out into well, there's Sunday. That's this weekend.
Wow.
These numbers on the Buffalo Ridge in southwest Minnesota. Now, the actual air temperature, you know, when you're starting to talk 59 in Marshall, Minnesota on the 15th of February, the climate average compared to what's, you know, normal, that's why we get all those colors. And it's region-wide. Look at Nebraska, Kansas, all the way to Texas. You've got 60s and 70s, Scott.
While you're there, go ahead and bring up surface moisture and dew points. I think that's where the dew points are hidden.
You betcha. Let's look at that. Okay, so this is...
I'm a little curious.
Yep, so you got some 40s in here. Now, I can rewind the clock here a little bit. Do you see how, of course, the weekend system, see that? That's actually Gulf moisture.
Need.
60-degree dew points go down into Little Rock, and it feeds that system this weekend. So that's interesting. And then, yeah, we're starting to see a little recharge. Now, this is, let me go out a little farther in time, since we talked about this earlier. Dew point in Sioux Falls by Tuesday of next week. Isn't that the day we're going 60?
That's the day we're going at least 60.
Ooh, okay. So there's a dew point of 46. Now, what does that mean? Well, it actually means there's a little moisture in the air.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it'll start to feel even more so like early April. That's classic early April weather. You get I should say even above normal for early April. What's normal now, Scott? It's so far off when we should be around, 31?
Right. Well, when you look at the numbers for February, I think we looked at this morning, the average high for the month this year is 41.7. You know, and that includes a couple of days with temperatures, in the low 30s. We're only, 10 days into it.
Yeah.
I think we'll have a high near 50 today.
Right, and that's going to continue to just pull those averages up, given the 7-day forecast and the weight of that. But as we did, and you did some math this morning, though, it's interesting in history, like year 2002 goes back a ways. I'd only been working here for a couple of years, but I do remember that year as a drought year, but that February was phenomenal. We had a high, I think the average high was 52.
Okay.
Through the whole month.
For the whole month, yeah.
I mean, you think back at that and I'm like, wow, that's quite a run. So we'll see if we weight that all of this month. You know, got a little ways to go, you know, see how the last few days of the month end up shaking out.
Yeah. Otherwise, get used to this, I guess, for a good week and a half. But we'll talk more about this weather pattern coming up. I'm just trying to get my graphic straight here. I think it's actually the next graphic I have. Yeah, we'll talk more about this weather pattern coming up in the next segment. Stay with us. You're watching Weather or Not. Our last segment, Brian, talking about the pattern, and we usually like to look at, say, I don't know, week and a half to 2 weeks out. What does that take us to?
Is that March already?
Well, close. We're
almost
getting close. Valentine's Day is the halfway point.
I think this
Can't
month
forget
just
about
started,
Valentine's Day.
It's like, how does it go by? Well, it's a short month, right?
It's right.
Less days.
It's a short month. Getting out of, obviously, January being, you know, some of the coldest air that we can have, even though we've talked about it on this show, the record low temperature has occurred in February in Sioux Falls, 42 below.
It has. But, you know, February is also that month that I think, you know, when you get into a year where it's long or you get into cold and snow that doesn't, you know, go away, it can be a little wearing on people. Mm-hmm. So I think this year, now with everything we've talked about and plus what's coming, yeah, it's definitely making a difference. So I'll let you decide your opinion. If you don't like, I mean, some of you love snow and you want to go skiing, and it's been kind of rough on that accord. But many of you applaud this stuff. Let's look at the pattern. We've acknowledged the above normal, the much above normal, possibly record-breaking for parts of the plains, Scott.
Yeah, I think, you know, if things do hold true, that Tuesday, I need to put this graphic together like I've been putting a lot of graphics together about the top 5 warmest for the particular date. The record high, we've been saying this, for the 17th is 70. Then I think the second warmest is 65 degrees on the 17th.
Yeah, it's going to be 65 I think is achievable. Now, sunshine has to work out. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of little things you can't say for sure until we get a little closer. But, Hey, look at this. This is still an interesting subject. I know we kind of talk about this change coming up after.
And I see Alaska's warm.
Well, it is. It's an interesting pattern. Western Alaska, it's a little warmer, but you do have some polar connections here. I mean, this is the continent of North America. Let me zoom out a little bit. So we're kind of watching the structure of this because, we can put into position some colder weather to our north. We can put into the forecast, obviously, the arrival of an active jet stream pattern. I know we'll talk more tomorrow on the program, Scott, about that. Let's see what it does. Temperature could be a little interesting alignment here. Whenever the cold stacks on the western part of North America, then we can dig a trough, and then we can get more active. I'll just say that. In the plains.
Better chances for precipitation, which is something that, I think that we will be looking for sooner or later, especially with the pattern that we're in right now being warm and dry. So we'll see where things do go as we get into, say, that last week of February. I see you have Old Man Winter showing up.
Well,
you need to drag him a little farther to the south.
He's kind of up there. But
he's hanging out.
But look at that. I mean, if that pattern actually came true, if this is what actually happens on February 25th, then we will be in business. There will be things going on because that's a big contrast, and that's what helps fuel storms.
And I like how you said, if this actually holds true, because something that you and I talked about off camera during KELOLAND this morning is, Brian, I said to you, Brian, I've seen these phantom storms show up starting in the middle of the month, and then they go away. We can talk all we want about them showing up a week and a half to 2 weeks from now. Of course, the big question is, and it's the way weather works, will it hold true? And it's always fun to see it hold true. It's like, oh yeah, we saw this come in 2 weeks, 2 weeks out. It's when things fall apart that it's like, oh yeah, I guess it's didn't happen.
Didn't happen. And the timing it's the concept, I think, is going in the right direction. The timeline is going to be your biggest challenge. Is it going to start collapsing the middle of next week? Or do we even get a little bit more bonus weather? That's the question we're wrestling with.
Delay, but not deny.
Yep. That's the classic phrasing, Scott. Delay, but not deny. And that's, I think it holds true a lot in weather. Timing is a challenge. But the idea, the concept, I think we're going to get some more active weather.
Okay, we'll continue to follow it, and you can follow along, of course, with us on this program, Weather or Not. That's all the time we have for today. Enjoy the rest of your day.